Hi everyone, welcome to my very first episode of Tiff Talks, where you ask the questions and I'll try to answer them. So the very first question today is, how do I learn to design websites and do what you do? Now, if you don't know what I do, I dabble a lot in digital marketing. That's like my area of expertise, if you would say. But that's just something that I graduated with a degree in college. So most of my work actually revolves around web design and graphic design, and that's something that I just picked up over time with my career. And how I got into web design was actually around maybe like when I was in 6th grade, when MySpace was a thing. That's when I first started getting into like HTML, CSS. Now, I don't actually code from scratch. I don't develop anything. I just design like front end. And so when I got into MySpace, I was really intrigued by the fact that you could design things online. That was crazy to me. And I wanted it to fit what I wanted, right? That was my very first time actually thinking about doing any kind of web design. And over time, when I first interned at InBody, that was the first time that I actually worked with an agency to talk about actually designing for a company. So I was like 19 at the time. I had no idea what I was doing. And the company that we were working for was called Mopro. It's a small little website agency that I think is based in San Diego. And they went back and forth with me about like what I wanted on the design. And I was like, dude, I don't know. This is like my first time ever doing this. But I had dabbled a little bit in Illustrator and Photoshop because of like Photo Bucket and like Facebook, you know, making your own banners. So everything just kind of came together. And eventually with my background in marketing, knowing how to copyright and like how to be salesy and learning graphic design along the way, that helped me transition into web design. And after I worked with Mopro for InBody, the site was up and running, and I just felt like it was like a little lacking. And we also transitioned to Shopify. So from Mopro, we went to Shopify, and Shopify is an e-commerce platform where you can actually custom code your templates. So we bought a template, and I didn't really like it. And because I had already had a little bit of experience with HTML and CSS, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to design it a little bit more to the way that I want. I don't think I designed it to like the way that you're supposed to code. I just did it the way that I Googled it, and most of my career is actually from Google and YouTube. So I just copied a bunch of codes, tried to make it fit the company brand and business objectives, and eventually it worked for a little bit. And eventually I went to YWAM, and then that was my first exposure to WordPress. And I had dabbled a little bit with Squarespace and Wix prior to that because I was trying to make my portfolio with all my like new graphic design skills. And so when I encountered WordPress.org, I was shocked that you could have like a drag and drop like website builder like this. That was so powerful, and that you could have plugins, you can edit the SEO with like plugins like Yoast. And so I was really impressed with WordPress, and I'm glad that I had a team that helped train me on editing the site, and eventually like I took it upon myself to completely revamp the site. And because I love graphic design and I love designing things to look more aesthetic, and not only that, but being able to help the business thrive and generate more leads, more customers, I saw a lot of success in what I was doing. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do this as a career for small businesses, nothing too big, right? Because imposter syndrome, like I didn't know what I was doing. I never took a boot camp. I never got trained. I never went to school for this. So when I came back from YWAM, I went back into InBody, and they hired me back. And one of my biggest projects was actually redesigning the entire Shopify site into a WordPress site. And I only had 2 months to do it. And mind you, this is a site for like not only like nationally in America, but like other like international subsidiaries were looking at us to see what we were doing. And after 2 months, I built like over 60 different pages. I took a lot. It was like literally every single day, 8 hours, I would say. A day of just like 4 hours, like at home, just like planning, thinking, strategizing, researching, like looking up existing websites that I liked, and even our competitors, and seeing, okay, like what do I like, what do I not like, and then applying it to myself. So I feel like a lot of design, or like I guess like anyone's work that involves like marketing and design, is a lot about researching, looking up what you like, and then trying to apply it to meet business objectives, and then being able to track whether or not those designs work. But that's beyond the point. That's another topic for another day. But After that, the international subsidiaries actually really liked my redesign, and they actually started copying it, which is really funny because like imposter syndrome, like I was like, no way, like my design's just good enough for like us in America maybe, but like I can't believe that they're using it like all around the world now. So they didn't copy it exactly, like because like I couldn't export like the theme that I was using on WordPress to like give it to them. So they would just like try to copy the design, the layout, and like the wording and everything, which I thought was really cool. So I would say that that's one thing that I've been like learning, is that even though I feel like I don't really know how to do something, that there are people that don't know as much as you, and they will look up to you. So do your research, practice a lot. There are a lot of different platforms out there for web design that you can try, like Squarespace, Wix, Shopify, WordPress. WordPress.org costs money because you do need hosting. So I pay like $6 a month for my hosting, and then my theme was like $60. And it's taking me, I think it's gonna take me like 4 or 5 days to like revamp my portfolio and bring it on here. But even then, that's like with the knowledge I know about WordPress and web design, but it definitely takes a long time. Maybe start with Squarespace or Wix. And then after that, I did transition into like a little bit more UI UX. So one of my clients when I was freelancing asked me to develop an app. And at first it was supposed to be like a phone app, and then they asked for like a web-based app. So I had to design on Adobe Xd, which is basically kind of like Photoshop, but for like apps and like prototyping. What that does is that it allows you to like click through things, or like you can have assets. So that was my first time actually designing something that needed to be so pixel perfect that needed to go into development. So I learned a lot about making my craft more detailed and not skipping any steps, because like on a website you can't really see if everything's pixel perfect, but on an app you can, because when the developers are coding, they'll know like, oh, like this is off by like 1 or 2 pixels, like can you fix this? And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But I had to do that like 100 different times. So yeah, that was just a journey. It's been a long journey of becoming someone that actually kind of knows what she's doing with web design, but then there's so much that I don't know as well, because I'm not a developer and I can only work with templates and maybe like add custom CSS to do a little bit of formatting here and there. But it's fun doing front end designing, and a lot of small businesses need that, especially in this day and age where we're not allowed to go in person to a lot of stores and like see what these stores are actually like. So having some kind of online interaction and like hub of information is really important. So yeah, hope that kind of shows you a little bit about my journey as a web designer, or at least a part of what I do. And I hope that also inspires you to just try it out. I mean, honestly, like I am not an expert in, I would say, anything that I do. I just have had more time to practice, and I've also had really great people that I've worked with that have helped me along the way and taught me their skills. Like I worked with a graphic designer at InBody, and she was our senior graphic designer, and she actually taught me so much about Illustrator and Photoshop and about white space, because I had no idea what white space was. So yeah, there are a bunch of like YouTube tutorials online. I'm sure you can find someone that can teach you how to design websites, and just start with something small, like maybe buy a domain and buy it from Google. It's probably the cheapest, like I think like $12 a year. And then from there, you know, find a platform that you like. It's definitely a lot to take in at once, because you do have to drag and drop things, and then you have to edit them. And there are a lot of things like spacing, right? There are different terminologies like padding, margin, some things to look for, typography, colors, the psychology of colors, even depending on your industry. So just YouTube it, try it out. If you don't like it, keep trying. I'm sure your site is not going to be like live. It's just something to test out. So yeah, have fun with it, and I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, just feel free to message me on Instagram at Tiffany A Yay, or you can hashtag Ask Tiff Yay, and I will try to answer it in either a video or a graphic post. So thanks guys, and talk to you soon.